You are sitting in a room with no windows. The chair beneath you is bolted to the floor. The table is steel. The overhead light has a frequency you can feel in your back teeth, a faint 6-0 cycle hum that you will eventually stop noticing. You do not stop noticing it today. Today, everything is loud. There is a man across from you. You do not know his rank. You do not know his real name. He slides a manila folder across the table, and he does not smile when he does it. You open the folder. Inside is a photograph of yourself, not one you remember being taken, and a name that is not yours. He asks you one question. Can you live without existing? You say yes. The word comes out steady, which surprises you. What does not surprise you is that he writes nothing down. What surprises you, later, weeks later, lying in the dark of your first safe house in a city whose language you are still learning, is that you said it so quickly. You didn't even pause. You said yes, the way you'd say yes to a cup of coffee. Reflexive, uncalculated. You are 26 years old. You speak 3 languages fluently and 1 well enough to pass. You were chosen for this because you have what the assessment calls low personal narrative investment, which means, in plain language, that you don't tell stories about yourself at parties. You don't have strong opinions about your childhood. You are not particularly attached to the sound of your own name. You thought those were deficiencies. Turns out they are qualifications. The first identity they give you has a birthday 3 months before your own. His name is something European, something soft at the edges. You practice the signature for 11 days until the S stops looking like yours. You are moved to a staging location, a mid-grade apartment in a city that is cold for 8 months of the year. The walls are beige. The refrigerator hums louder than the overhead light in the briefing room, which is saying something. You are issued a legend. That is the technical term, legend. A constructed biographical history, a whole life in a sealed envelope. You have a mother who died of cancer in 2003. You have a degree you did not earn from a university you attended for 11 days in order to memorize the layout of the campus. You have an ex-girlfriend whose name is Marta and whose favorite film is Cinema Paradiso, and who moved to Oslo for a job in marine biology. You know more about Marta than you know about any real person currently in your life, because there are no real people currently in your life. You read your legend the way other people read instruction manuals, carefully, repetitively, with the specific focus of someone who knows that a misstep will cost them something serious. The call, outside, is minus 11 Celsius. You memorize that too. 18 months pass. They feel like 30. Your first handler is a woman you know only as Mira, which is certainly not her name. She communicates in fragments, a newspaper left folded to a specific page, a phone that rings twice and goes silent. Occasionally, a meeting in the food court of a mall, where she will sit 3 tables away, and you will speak to each other without looking at each other. 2 voices moving through the ambient noise of a Tuesday afternoon. She is the closest thing to a colleague that you have. You do not know her eye color because you have never been close enough to check. Your target is an intermediary, a man who moves money between an arms procurement network and a set of shell corporations registered in jurisdictions where nobody asks too many questions. Your job for the first 14 months is to exist near him, to become part of his peripheral vision, to be the kind of person he has seen enough times that he would not find your presence remarkable. You get a job at a trading firm 3 floors below the company he uses as a front. You work in compliance. The irony is not lost on you, but you file it away. Irony is a luxury. You do not spend luxuries while you are working. You are promoted once, within the cover organization. Legitimately. Your supervisor, a tired man named Bogdan who smells of cigarettes and keeps photographs of his grandchildren on his desk, tells you that you have an instinct for patterns in data. He is not wrong. You have been doing nothing but reading patterns for 18 months. You say thank you. You mean it, which is the strange part. You actually mean it. Bogdan's approval makes you feel something that takes you a full evening to name. It is not pride, exactly. It is recognition. Someone sees the shape of you even if the shape they're seeing is borrowed. This is the first warning. You don't recognize it as a warning. By month 22, you have established what the service calls social proximity to your target. You have met him twice at industry events. He remembers your name. He finds you unremarkable, which is the goal. You eat at the same restaurant on Thursdays. You have not yet spoken directly about anything of consequence. In month 27, you are given an upgrade. They move you to a better apartment. Still beige, still cold, but the refrigerator is quieter. They give you a second identity to maintain simultaneously, a weekend version of yourself, a different city, a different set of relationships, a different story. You travel on Fridays and return on Sundays, and you practice code-switching identities in the car, on the train, in airport bathrooms, where you stand over the sink and let both versions of yourself blur in the mirror until you find a third expression, a neutral one, a rest state, a face that belongs to no one. You are told this is the sign of a skilled operative. You write it down in neither of your journals because you keep no journals. By the end of year 3, you understand how the machine actually works. It is not what they implied in the training material. The training materials made it sound like a structure, a hierarchy with clear inputs and outputs, targets and objectives, timelines. In practice, the system is more like weather. It has patterns, but no clean logic. It has pressures that build over years and release in ways you cannot predict. Here's what you learn that nobody writes down. There is the official report, and there is the real report. The official report goes through channels. It is formatted, sanitized, and optimized for plausible deniability at the institutional level. The real report, the one where you say what is actually happening, lives in conversations that take place in parking structure, in secure calls that get logged but not reviewed, in the marginal notes of documents that are read once and destroyed. You learn to write 2 of everything. You learn that budget cycles matter more than operational realities. Your operation is considered Tier 2. Tier 2 means you have resources but not priority. It means that when something breaks a dead drop that's been compromised, a contact who has suddenly and quietly relocated, you do not call the emergency line because the emergency line is for Tier 1. You fix it yourself. You improvise within the sanctioned boundaries, and then you document the improvisation in language that makes it sound like it was planned. This is called creative compliance. Nobody uses that phrase, but everyone practices. The numbers. Your operational budget is 47,000 euros per quarter, 18,000 euros of which goes to the maintenance of your 2 legends, rent, bills, and the small purchases that make a life look lived in. A gym membership you never use. A streaming subscription that you occasionally watch on Friday evening, when the silence in the weekend apartment becomes too specific in its texture. The temperature in January averages -9. You have now been here for 3 winters, and you have still not found the cold routine. You still tense when you step outside. You have been told this is a security risk. Tension is visible. You learn to be cold without showing it. Your contact network by year 3 consists of 14 people. Of those 14, you are emotionally connected to exactly 0. One of them, a man named Vasil, who works at a cafe and leaves messages for you in the form of chalk marks on a specific wall near the East Tram station, has a daughter who was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. You know this because you track his patterns, and the pattern changed in September. He started leaving work 40 minutes early on Tuesdays, which corresponds with the pediatric endocrinology clinic 2 blocks over. You do not mention this in any report. It is irrelevant to the operation. You think about it anyway. Your 4th year is the year the texture of time changes. It does not speed up. That is the myth that time speeds up when you are deep in something, when the work consumes you. It does not speed up. It flattens. One week becomes indistinguishable from the week before it. You develop routines so automatic that you complete them without memory of doing so. You have wiped down the handles in the safe house apartment. You have checked the window locks. You have run the counter surveillance route through the market and the parallel street and back. And you arrive at your destination with no recollection of the journey. This is efficiency. You are told this is efficiency. You call your sister in April. She lives in a city you cannot name in your legend, working a job you cannot know the details of because you stopped asking questions about her life in year 2, when it became clear that the more you knew, the more you'd have to compartmentalize. And compartmentalization takes space, and space is finite. She asks how you are. You say you are fine. She says you sound different. You ask what she means, and she pauses for 3 seconds. You count them, and she says, I don't know. Farther away, somehow. You tell her you are the same as always. This is the first time you lie to her that she notices. Your sleep architecture, by your 4th year, is permanently altered. You do not sleep more than 4 hours in a continuous stretch. You do not enter deep sleep in unfamiliar locations. You cannot. The body learns what the mind is taught, and what you have taught your mind is that the world is not safe when you are not watching it. You lie in the dark, and your eyes move, and you listen to the building settle, and you calculate exit routes. You stop listening to music. Music requires a kind of surrender, a willingness to be moved without context that you have misplaced somewhere in the 3rd year. The last song you can remember feeling something during was something your mother used to play, something old, something with a piano. You remember the feeling of it, but not the sound. You do not try to find the sound again. That is the part that should alarm you. You do not try. You receive a commendation in year 4. It comes in the form of a single line and a secure message from a senior officer you have met once. Your work has been noted and valued. This is the institutional equivalent of a standing ovation. You read it 3 times, and then you delete it because you delete everything. And the deletion feels, in a way you cannot explain, like the real thing that happens to you that month. It begins with a silence. Mira's channel goes dark on a Tuesday. Not unusual. There are operational reasons for communication blackout. You wait 72 hours, which is the protocol. On Thursday, you check the first dead. Drop a hollow behind a loose brick in the wall of an underpass near the old textile market. Empty. You check the secondary. Empty. You check the tertiary, and you feel, for the first time in 4 years, something that is not calculation. You feel cold in a way that has nothing to do with the temperature, which is -4. You go back to the safe house. You run the protocols. You inventory your legend documents, your exit routes, and your emergency cash 12,400 euros in a waterproof bag inside a power strip under the desk. You eat a bowl of soup because eating is a protocol too, maintaining physical function, keeping the body regulated. On day 5, you notice the vehicle. A gray sedan, mid-range, parked across from your residence, in a position that has too clear a sightline to the entrance. It has been there for 3 days. You noticed it on day 1, but assessed it as incidental. On day 5, it is still there, and incidental has become impossible. On day 6, your target, the man, you have spent 38 months building proximity to cancels his Thursday restaurant reservation. He has never canceled a Thursday reservation. These data points are not individually conclusive. Together, they are unambiguous. The operation is compromised. The leak is somewhere above you in the chain, which means somewhere above you in the chain, someone knows your name, your real name, not the one in the document, and has decided what to do with that information. You have 48 hours at most. You sit at the table in the safe house, the cheap table, the one that wobbles slightly on its left rear leg, and you run the scenario. Exfiltrate. Burn the identity. Burn the network. Disappear into a third legend that your emergency contact can activate within 6 hours. 38 months of work. Abandoned. The procurement network survives. The money keeps moving. The shells stay standing. Or you locate the leak. You eliminate the variable. You protect the operation from within. This is not a decision the training prepared you for. The training gave you protocols and principles. The training did not give you a framework for the moment, when the principles conflict irreconcilably, when the only way to continue serving the mission is to do something the mission would disavow. You look at the man who has been sitting across from you for the past 11 minutes. In this restaurant you suggested because you know where the cameras are. In this booth you chose because the angle is correct. You look at him, and he says your name, your real name, and he says it the way you'd say, a fact, flatly, without drama, the way you read a street address. He shouldn't know it. Your pulse rises 14 beats per minute. Your face does not change. You have run this scenario in your mind 8,000 times, over 4 years of training and operational deployment. Threat at close range, assets compromised, no extraction support, no sanctioned authorization, 8,000 simulations. And in none of them did you feel what you feel now, which is nothing. Not calm, not cold, nothing. A complete absence of moral weight in the moment. Your hand moves before your mind finishes the thought. By morning, your identity is gone, not the fake one. The fake one was burned 6 hours ago, documents shredded, accounts zeroed, the apartment wiped down with a systematic thoroughness that took 90 minutes, and that you performed in the kind of focused, dissociated quiet that comes after the irreversible. The identity that is gone is harder to name. You are in a vehicle, moving toward a border crossing. You have a third legend, the emergency one, the one you never wanted to use, and it fits imperfectly, the way borrowed clothes fit. The birthday is wrong by 2 years in a way that feels significant. The signature still has the S in the wrong place. You watch the city pass through the window. It is still dark. The streetlights are the amber kind, the old kind, the kind that makes everything look like a photograph from a time before you were born. You think about Bogdan and his photographs of grandchildren. You think about Vasily and his daughter with the Tuesday appointments. You think about your sister saying you sound different, farther away somehow. And you think about the fact that she was right, that you were already gone long before this morning, that the erosion was so gradual and so total that there was no single moment where you could have stopped it. There is no dramatic realization. That is the thing that the training does not tell you, that the shattering does not arrive as a single blow. It arrives as a recalibration, a recognition. You look back along the length of your years in this work, and you see not a series of compromises, but a single, continuous, uninterrupted trajectory, an identity not stolen but surrendered, quietly, in increments small enough to seem reasonable one at a time, and enormous only in aggregate. You were 26 when you said yes in that room with no window. You are 31 now, and you don't know who said yes. The system is already replacing you. Somewhere in a room, very much like the one you sat in with your manila folder, a 24-year-old is being assessed. The file has a photograph. The name is not theirs. The man across the desk is asking the question, and the 24-year-old is answering it. And the answer is yes, and it comes out steady, which surprises them. The overhead light hums at 60 cycles. The chair is bolted to the floor. The city outside is cold -11, -9, -4. It doesn't matter cold in the specific way of a place that has always been cold and intends to continue. The machine does not notice your absence. The machine does not notice your absence in the same way a river does not notice the water that has already moved downstream. You were functioning. You were processed. The process continues. You did not break the system. You were not meant to. The man who knew your name is no longer a problem. The operation restructured, reseated, assigned to someone whose legend is already being built in an apartment that is beige and cold, with a refrigerator that hums will continue. By next Thursday, someone else will be eating at the same restaurant. By next January, someone else will learn to be cold without showing it. And somewhere in a car moving through amber streetlights before dawn, or in a safe house in a city whose language they are still learning, or in the pause between two versions of themselves in an airport bathroom mirror, someone will ask the question that you could never quite answer. Which one was real? And the silence that follows will be the only honest thing left.